finished. After the waves and wind erase the guy's traces on the sand, there will be no signs of their presence here on the shore. The pest turned out to be a man already seen earlier, wearing a wide-brimmed hat. But someone was in an even worse situation than the guys and the fox. The princess continued to tow several people over the endless sea, whom she managed to save from the flying ship. The princess thought that she would soon lose consciousness from thirst. Soon she woke up to someone offering her clean water. The princess saw a girl with blue hair, although Her Majesty did not understand whether this was really happening or whether she was hallucinating. The beauty offered them water and asked if they had seen the guys. At first glance, it looked like someone was collecting coconuts. But in fact, they were scattered and not for fun. And it was very strange. A man from the ship saw the guy in the hat and was very happy because he had never met anyone alive before. The victim asked the man if he was also a ship survivor. Then he asked him for one coconut because he was very thirsty. The mysterious guy in the hat didn't answer. He just looked sullenly from under the brim of his hat. Then he saw a large hole at the roots of a tree. An idea came to his mind. At this time, Chu Xingqian and Shu Zuowu were crunching leaves deliciously, like two ruminants. Suddenly, Chu Xingqian saw a lonely coconut lying at the foot of the tree. The thirsty guy rushed as fast as he could to the desired coconut. While Chu Xingqian greedily absorbed the refreshing liquid, Shu Zuowu asked him to leave him a couple of sips. But seeing that the guy was not going to stop, Shu Zuowu decided to take the coconut himself to get drunk. While the noble guy was trying to shake out at least a couple of drops of moisture from the selected coconut to refresh his dry throat, Chu Xingqian noticed another coconut. The system tried to detain the guy and bring him to his senses. The system brought Chu Xingqian's attention to the fact that there were a suspiciously large number of coconuts here, considering that there were no coconut trees in this place at all. The system also indicated that the coconuts were scattered in a certain order, as if to lure a careless traveler into a trap. Suddenly, Chu Xingqian heard some noise in the distance and rushed over to investigate the situation. The guy saw the butt of a man whose head was hiding in a hole. He heard footsteps and asked the guys to help him, because someone was holding his head in the hole. The guys looked skeptically at the stuck man. Shu Zuowu thought that it was appropriate for the knights to save a beautiful girl, and not an unknown man. But there was nothing to do, and I had to help the stranger. Chu Xingqian also asked the stranger why he managed to stick his head into this hole. The guy tried to pull the man towards himself, but felt that he himself was beginning to be pulled into the hole. Soon, Chu Xingqian's butt was sticking out of the hole. True, this time at least he was wearing pants, because there was no fox nearby. Already from the hole, the guy called his noble comrade for help. Now, Shu Zuowu had to save his careless comrade instead of the beautiful girl. And a man in a wide hat was hiding nearby and saw everything perfectly. He came up with something again. And again, it was something insidious. The man wearing the wide hat put his foot forward and kicked Shu Zuowu hard. Now there were already 3 people in the hole. It was getting a little crowded. Shu Zuowu heard that there was someone else near the tree and asked them to help them get out. But at that moment, something very strong powerfully pulled all 3 guys down the hole. But it just seemed bottomless. The guys had no idea who was dragging them, and for what purpose. Moving on your belly in such a cramped and dirty space was not at all sweet. But every journey has an end point, and any hole has a beginning and an end. So the guys soon fell out of the hole into a large tunnel. Chu Xingqian saw a terrible creature in the tunnel. The man in the hat seemed to know what was what. At least he whispered something about a bull-headed ant. Among these creatures, even worker ants were above the level of a great martial artist. The stunned guys estimated that there were about 1,000 ants in this nest. At this time, the man in the hat said that he wanted to look at Chu Xingqian in action and make sure whether he really was the chosen one about whom they had been talking so much. True, the guy at this time did not feel chosen at all. However, Chu Xingqian and Shu Zuowu assumed fighting stances and prepared for a difficult battle. At this time, the guy whom his friends were trying to save was grabbed by one of the ants in his pincers. Chu Xingqian tried to free the guy's head, but he failed. Then, he summoned the hands of the golem. With reinforcements, everything would have happened faster. But the system said that you shouldn't show the golem's hands. She said that Shu Zuowu was pushed into a hole, and it could be a cunning trap. As a result, Chu Xingqian again tried to squash the ant pincers with his bare hands. At this time, Shu Zuowu, who was entering the battle, shouted to Chu Xingqian to be careful. Shizaku Wu took out his famous lightsaber and began to wave it around, preventing the enemy from coming closer. Together, they managed to free the guy and Shizuo Wu covered everyone with his lightsaber. True, the noble guy did not notice one vile creature that got closer and pointed a poisonous sting. Then the ant took good aim and hit the stinger right in Shizuo Wu's soft spot. The noble guy shouted obscenities. Chu Xingqian also yelled, fearing for his comrade. The system replied that now in front of them is an ant soldier, who is most likely at the level of a martial king. The system added that the guys had better leave this place. Because even though there are so many ants, there are even more of them every minute. Chu Xingqian saw another hole in the wall of the tunnel. The guy realized that there was still hope for salvation. Without wasting another second, the guy dived into the hole. The others immediately followed Chu Xingqian, fleeing the hordes of ants pressing behind them. It was very inconvenient to move, but the guys saved their own lives. Suddenly, Chu Xingqian saw the red eyes of a battle ant ahead. Without hesitation, the guy dived into the side tunnel and began to move forward even faster. In the end, the guys ended up in a chamber where there was a queen ant. There were a great many ant eggs in this chamber. The guys decided not to linger in this amazing place and immediately climbed into the first tunnel they came across. Finally, the guys flew out into a wider space. True, Chu Xingqian hit the left side of his face painfully on the hard ground. The guys were very tired, but they were glad that they were no longer being chased. Chu Xingqian began to feel the place where he hit his face. He thought that the ground could not be so hard. The guy raked the top layer with his hands and froze in amazement. There was something unusual underground. Chu Xingqian had never seen anything like this before. Moreover, this substance was so hard that even sharp shovels did not leave the slightest trace on it. The guys were pretty exhausted trying to penetrate deep into this substance, or at least pick out a small piece. The substance was very reminiscent of ice, but in terms of strength, it was closer to diamonds. After trying every method to no avail, Chu Xingqian desperately tried to lick the hard substance. But at this time, Shizuo Wu came up with something. He asked Chu Xingqian to step aside and used his lightsaber. Finally, the mysterious material began to yield. Shizuo Wu continued to slash with his lightsaber, trying to punch a hole in the substance. Chu Xingqian saw that the cracks were getting larger. He smiled happily. Shizuo Wu pressed his sword a little more. The guys stood near him and shouted to encourage their friend. Finally, the material could not withstand the pressure of the powerful weapon and broke into pieces with a crunch. Shizuo Wu lost his footing and fell down. Behind him, Chu Xingqian and the other guy fell screaming. The guys only got more bruises. It turned out that they fell from a fairly decent height. The guys found themselves in a cave of enormous size. Red banners hung around, on which the same symbol was repeated everywhere. Chu Xingqian thought that he had seen a similar symbol somewhere before. At this time, the guy was called out by his comrades. Shizuo Wu happily reported that they had found water. And indeed, where the noble guy pointed with his hand, clear water glistened dimly. The boys began to drink water greedily. They had been wandering around the dungeon for many hours, and thirst and hunger were making themselves felt. Taking a closer look at the water, Chu Xingqian saw dense spiritual power and realized that it was spiritual water. Now the guy understood why the ants become so big in this place. The guys decided to take the opportunity to have a good swim. They didn't know that they were being watched by a man wearing a floppy hat. The observer failed to see Chu Xingqian's capabilities in battle, as he and his comrades simply ran away from the ants. The guy in the hat thought that he should test Chu Xingqian again. He also did not suspect that an ominous shadow hung over him. And at this time, the children enjoyed swimming in clean water. Chu Xingqian noticed that this water had healed his bruised area. Shizuo Wu noticed that his skin had become normal. And the butt that was stung by the battle ant stopped hurting. The guys turned to their friend, who had been wounded in the head by an ant. But bathing in spiritual water didn't seem to help him. The guys tried to cheer up their friend, but the man became very upset and said that nothing could help him. Shizuo Wu noticed that, because of the chase, they didn't know the guy's name. He replied that his name was Hulu. Hulu told his astonished comrades that a man had lured him into a trap, saying that there was food in the hole. And when he was captured, that man did not help him. The guys wondered where that strange ill-wisher could have come from here. Chu Xingqian suspected that perhaps that person was on the same flying ship with them. True, he didn't understand why he tried to harm others. The guy was brought out of his thoughts by an unexpected attack, which Chu Xingqian skillfully repulsed. The guy realized with amazement that his opponent was very strong. Then the face of a gray fox appeared, distorted with a grimace of hatred. From his next powerful blow, the guy was bent in half. Shuzo Wu screamed and rushed to help his best friend. True, the noble guy ran into something very hard halfway there. It turned out to be the leg of a gray fox, and her blow was very painful for Shizuo Wu. The noble guy hit his back on the stone floor with all his might. But the fact that the fox was distracted by Shizuo Wu gave Chu Xingchen the opportunity to call for help. In the next moments, the guy unleashed a series of powerful blows on the gray fox. The enemy had to dodge. Chu Xingchen was indeed also injured during the battle, but there was no time to recover. The cunning gray fox performed a cunning trick, which Chu Xingchen saw too late. The enemy hit the guy right in the nose with his heel. Chu Xingchen realized that it looked like he couldn't handle the gray fox. Moreover, the enemy took out another weapon. The gray fox threw something at the input and raised a whole fountain of splashes. Chu Xingchen at this time gathered his stunned comrades to try to escape with them. Then the gray fox's attention was diverted by another person who appeared on the battlefield. It was the fox in person. She muttered why there was so much noise here and why her energy was being sucked out again. Then the fox saw the beaten Chu Xingchen and screamed that she knew that it was he who started the fight again. The amazed guy attacked the fox, asking what he was doing here. But while Chu Xingchen was sorting things out with the fox, the insidious gray fox hit him from behind. The blow was so strong that the guy screamed through the stone floor. The gray fox let out a victorious roar and placed his large paw on the defeated guy's head. The fox asked Chu Xingchen how he knew the secret techniques of the fox people, which are passed down from generation to generation, from father to son. To make it more convincing, the gray fox growled menacingly. But he never received an answer from Chu Xingchen. The fox did not stand on ceremony with his captives. So that the guys had less chances to escape, he stripped them of their clothes. No amount of request to give them at least some clothes made the gray fox soften. While the fox was staring at the naked guys, Chu Xingchen tried to get an explanation of what the fox was doing here and why it was in league with the fox who had captured them. Soon, the gray fox brought a guy in a wide hat and asked who he was. Hulu identified him as the man who lured him into the hole, and Chu Xingchen thought that this was probably the guy who pushed Shizuo Wu from behind. The fox tried to intercede for Chu Xingchen and his fellow travelers. She said that she knew the guy well, and that he was not an enemy, but the old fox did not want to listen to anything. He persistently asked the guy who taught him the ancient fox fighting technique. Chu Xingchen explained that he was an orphan and had every chance of starving to death. But then a woman with a scar on the left side of her face appeared in his life. The woman told little Chu Xingchen that he was one of a kind and left him a secret book. From this book, the guy learned secret techniques. But the old sly fox did not want to believe the guy's words. Chu Xingchen rushed around the cage like a wild animal. He's not used to spending time locked up. The gray fox said that if the guy does not want to tell the truth, then he will have to remain locked up. Chu Xingchen was very angry. He wondered why all old people of any race were so stupid and conservative. The fox again began to ask for people, but the old fox only muttered that if it weren't for her, he would have killed the captives long ago. The fox reminded the fox not to forget about the blood feud between foxes and people. Finally, the old man grabbed the struggling and kicking fox under his arm and carried her away. Chu Xingchen tiredly sat down in the corner of their cage and sadly lowered his head down. But then the system decided to cheer him up, telling him that the escape mission had begun. Chu Xingchen growled as to why the system did not appear when its help was greatly needed. To change the topic of conversation, the system reported that the guy in the hat had a fake system. Chu Xingchen realized that this guy with a wide hat was their secret enemy. True, he did not yet understand what his goal was. Suddenly, the guy saw that some object was sticking out from under the clothes of the guy in the hat. Rushing through the folds of the ill-wisher's clothes, Chu Xingchen fished out a blue book. True, some kind of abracadabra was written inside the book. All three guys stared at the book, but no one could make out these strange symbols that were in the book. Here, the system spoke. She said it was a secret code. But personally, she cracked such codes like nuts. And indeed, after the system processed the book, the text became quite readable. Chu Xingchen could immediately see that it was a diary. Having read the text even more, the guy realized that it was about himself. The system sarcastically asked Chu Xingchen if he still doubted that he was the chosen one. It turned out that the guy was constantly being watched, and all the data about him was recorded in a book. And apparently, the organization that dealt with this was quite large. Chu Xingchen decided to think it over carefully. The guy understood that some kind of threat was hanging over him, but so far he did not yet understand its scale. Moreover, there was more than enough time to think. What else can you do in a small cell other than think? True, at that moment, the guy in the wide hat came to his senses. Three comrades immediately rushed to greet him. The guy in the wide hat jumped in fright into the corner of their cell. Chu Xingchen introduced himself and his traveling companion, who had not yet fully recovered from the ant mites. Shi Zuowu also introduced himself and asked the stranger's name. The guy in the wide hat introduced himself as Hu Songlai. He asked where they were. Chu Xingchen explained that while they were taking bath treatments, they were attacked by a demon and captured them. It was clear that Hu Songlai, if that was indeed his name, was trying to comprehend the whole situation. Chu Xingchen, without wasting any time, invited Hu Songlai to look for a way to get out of prison together. 2 rows of tall columns supported the narrow ceiling. The fox banners fluttered from the columns. The little fox looked at the ancient fox structures in awe. He muttered the name to Wutanu, and he added that it is very beautiful here. An old fox approached the little fox and said that he could live here in peace. The little fox asked why the old man wanted to leave. The old fox told the little fox that people were still killing their people, and he needed to go out and fight for their freedom. And the little fox should stay here and guard this place. Years turned into decades, which also replaced each other, and the little fox turned into an old, experienced fox. But he did not abandon his post and continued to guard this secret place. Now the gray fox was babysitting the little fox, who continued to yell for him to let Chu Xingchen go. Finally, the old man let go of the kicking fox, and she fell to the ground. The old man said that if he let people go, then this place, which is the last refuge of foxes, will become known to people. The fox lowered her head and stubbornly repeated that Chu Xingchen would not give them away, that he once saved her life. The old man said wearily that the foxes were brought to the brink of destruction precisely because they trusted people too much. The gray fox reminded them that people are their blood enemies. The old fox said that the conversation was over, and he didn't want to hear about these guys anymore. The gray fox asked the little fox if she knew the meaning of her name, Xiaoqia. When the fox shook his head, the gray fox only grunted in disapproval. Then he told the fox that her name Xiaoxia means bringer of light. The old man added so that she would remember this fact well. Meanwhile, the search for the castaways was gaining momentum. A speaker came to the school's mentor and reported that no traces of other students had been found on Thunder Island. The princess and the girl with blue hair also heard this disappointing news and were very upset. The mentor said that the missing guys would be found without their help, and added that the girls needed to rest, since they themselves had only recently been found. A beauty with blue hair asked her mentor if there had been a search for the missing underground. Meanwhile, the guys were digging a tunnel from their dungeon. They worked like real moles and were already completely exhausted. Chu Xingchen was completely exhausted. He hasn't quite recovered from the fight with the gray fox yet. The other guys didn't look much better than Chu Xingchen. Hu Songlai did most of the work of digging the underground passage. He thought that Chu Xingchen was completely useless. But at that time, the guy chuckled quietly and thought that in order to re-educate Hu Songlai, it would be useful for him to work a little for the common good. As a result, Hu Songlai's efforts bore fruit. He punched a hole at the top of the tunnel, and a dim light poured from there. And this made all 4 guys very happy. Soon, their happy heads emerged from the hole and began to look around. However, during the way up, Chu Xingchen and Shi Zuowu got stuck in a hole. The place they found themselves in was truly amazing. At the top, the guys saw a spiral staircase pointing upward, supported by columns. But the fugitives themselves found themselves at the bottom of this peculiar well. Hu Songlai shouted where they got to and how to get out of here. Then, without thinking too much, he rushed up the stairs. The others followed him. True, Chu Xingchen lingered at the bottom of this well. Something on the stone floor caught his attention. The guy had seen these strange runes before. And here they are again in front of him. Chu Xingchen asked the system to give him the stone that he received from the Imperial Treasury. The stone had the exact same symbol as the one on the stone floor. Chu Xingchen put the stone aside and crawled on the stones, trying to decipher the runes. But at this very time, something happened to the stone. It looks like he triggered some kind of reaction. Aunt Hong appeared behind the guy. True, he did not notice her, directing all his attention to the runes. Chu Xingchen was so absorbed in what he was doing that he did not immediately realize that something had started to happen around him. The entire building shook, from the base to the very top. The guys who were already very high were very scared. Shi Zuowu shouted at Chu Xingchen to leave if he valued his life. But the enthusiastic guy did not hear anything. He saw that the stone began to work, the runes began to glow, and the whole place began to move. Chu Xingqian hoped to solve the mystery of this stone, and if he was lucky, then learn the story of Aunt Hong. Suddenly, the guy saw that in the center of the circle of runes, a pillar rose up, on which the central symbol was drawn. At this time, the earthquake had not yet reached the depths of the forest, but it was not calm there either. Apparently, someone was having a training session. The out-of-breath fox was hiding behind a thick tree post, but this shelter did not save her from trouble. She was surprised to see that her location had been revealed. The fox tried to gently slip out of the trap, but her fluffy tail pinned her down. Soon, a gray fox appeared and sadly reported that today's youth are no longer the same as they were in the days of his youth. At that moment, the gray fox heard tremors. Moreover, these were tremors of a special nature, and the old fox immediately understood what caused them. The fox reported that it was the heart of the underground palace that had begun to move and began to run. On the way, the old man reported that someone had activated the mechanism. But only a princess could do this, and it seemed incredible. In reality, the troublemaker was Chu Xingqian. Moreover, the guy himself was no longer happy that he started these games with runes and stones from the imperial treasury. Chu Xingqian told the fox who ran up that he could not take his hand off the stone pillar. The guy added that the pillar was sucking out his spiritual energy. The old fox muttered quietly that it was the princess. True, there was no particular similarity between the princess and Chu Xingqian. At this time, the mentor above was scanning the ground with his spiritual energy. He told the upset girls that he had found no trace of the missing boys. The mentor added that it was better not to waste more time here and move the search to other islands. At this time, everyone present heard powerful tremors. The strange well continued to tremble, shaking the earth around. Waves of energy spread throughout the island. Shizuo Wu shouted at Chu Xingqian to go upstairs. The noble guy himself took a great risk since he could fall down from the next push. Chu Xingqian shouted from below that he was fine, and so that the guys don't wait for him, but leave on their own. The guys moved further up the stairs, dragging the reluctant Shizuo Wu with them. The noble guy did not want to leave without his friend. But the three guys safely reached the top of the stairs. There was a border above their heads. Hu Songlai immediately checked her and said that this was the way out. The next second, the guy dived across the border. Chu Xingqian also looked up, seeing the much-desired and difficult-to-achieve exit. But the fox brought the guy back to reality, and she said that he had better solve the most urgent problem. The gray fox was still under the influence of his delusions and continued to call Chu Xingqian a princess. The guy muttered in anger which princess he was talking about. The stone sucked so much energy out of him that he turned into an old man before his eyes. The gray fox quickly pressed some button on the wall of the hall. At that same moment, Chu Xingqian felt that the force that was holding his hand began to weaken. And soon, the guy was able to break away from the stone pillar. The gray fox muttered that the guy was not a princess after all. He doesn't even have enough energy to keep the mechanism on. Chu Xingqian only looked askance at the crazy old fox. The old man did not back down. He asked the guy how he managed to start the ancient mechanism and why the guy had the scent of a princess on him. Then, Chu Xingqian himself began to understand something. He was even surprised that it took so long for him to get it. He muttered that the gray fox was probably one of Aunt Hung's people. Chu Xingqian informed the old fox that he was the princess's assistant. He showed the old man the stone and said that it was just right for saving the princess. The guy plunged into memories of the events that took place 11 years ago. He ran screaming to Aunt Hung. The boy is missing something. As soon as he opened the door, the boy screamed that his reed flower was missing. The drunken aunt lazily asked what kind of reed flower this was, or this guy gave that name to his chicken. The boy shouted for Aunt Hung to immediately return the chicken to him because he wanted eggs from her. Aunt Hung hugged the boy to her and said that unfortunately, the chicken was no longer alive. She invited the boy to meet the chicken. A one-eyed old man passed by and he heard the desperate cries of a boy. The old man burst into the room and saw that the drunken aunt had embraced the struggling boy. The one-eyed old man released little Chu and hugged him tightly. The old man muttered that the aunt is usually good, but when she drinks, she begins to torment the child. The one-eyed old man shouted that he would like her former subordinates to see her aunt. Little Chu heard Aunt Hung's confession with a sinking heart. She said that there was no way for her to meet them now. Little Chu Xingqian's story with the chicken made a great impression on the gray fox. For some time, there was silence. The old fox digested the information he heard from the guy. Then, Chu Xingqian told the fox that his aunt gave him this stone to save the other foxes. The gray fox asked if the princess was okay now. The guy said that Aunt Hung disappeared several years ago, and now no one knows where she might be. The gray fox muttered that if the princess did not trust people, the foxes would now have a normal life. True, the fox added that thanks to cooperation with people, the princess gained time. Without this, they wouldn't even be able to build this shelter. Suddenly, everyone heard a strange noise upstairs. Someone tried to break in. Chu Hingchen said that this is not like his guys. It could be more like a rescue team. To understand what happened above, you need to go back to the time when Chu Xingchen's comrades got out of the underground well. On the shore, the guys met a search group. Shu Wu reported that there was an underground palace at the bottom of the lake. He added that Chu Xingchen was still there and needed to be rescued urgently. But it turned out that the school mentor had already gone to the bottom of the lake and found a seal closing the entrance down. The seal was very strong, and the mentor could not break it the first time. But at this time, Chu Xingchen and the fox began to break through the border. The mentor helped the two rise from the depths using their own strength. Then, with a gentle movement, the mentor directed the energy towards the shore of the lake, and in the blink of an eye, the guys found themselves on the shore, safe and sound. The princess immediately threw herself at Chu Xingchen's neck. It cannot be said that the guy was too happy about this. And Shu Wu decided to cuddle up and also hug the princess and his friend. Chu Xingchen hastened to declare that the underground palace had collapsed and the demon remained buried inside. The guy didn't want other people to know about the fox's secret place. The mentor said that it was good that everything ended well, and now it was time to return to school. Because of all these worries and misadventures, the children completely forgot about school. Chu Xingchen exchanged glances with the fox, but no one understood what these looks meant. Previously underground, a gray fox handed a medallion to the fox. He said it was a fox communication and storage device. The old man said that they urgently needed to get out of here before other people entered this place. Guiding the guy on his way, the gray fox told him to collect 10,000 spiritual stones. Chu Xingchen let out a cry of surprise. He couldn't collect so many spiritual stones in his entire life. The old fox said that this mechanism requires a lot of spiritual energy to work. Since they don't have much of it, they will have to use spiritual stones. The gray fox bared his teeth mysteriously and fell silent for a few seconds. Then he solemnly said that this old mechanism could bring the whole island back to life. The guys left the island, tired but happy. Although there was little pleasant on the island, they were glad that everyone remained safe and sound. Chu Xingchen was surprised that Aunt Hung was a princess, and especially since she created an underground palace with this powerful mechanism. But the guy had no idea how he could collect 10 used spiritual stones. The system happily informed the guy that he had successfully completed the escape mission. She added that his morale has been raised to ground level. The system asked Chu Xingchen what he was going to do with this bad guy. Chu Xingchen laughed in a friendly manner and waved his hand at the guy. He didn't want to show that he had revealed it, because they could have sent him someone else instead. And so, at least the guy was visible, and much less harm could be expected from him than if his existence was not suspected. The delighted princess practically did not leave her master almost the entire way. But soon the flying ship landed at the airport of the main island, where the school was located. The princess sang cheerfully that she had the opportunity to go to school with her master. Shu Wu stated that he was going to set aside time every day to practice with the sword, and Chu Xingchen, of course, was going to engage in farming. And he was incredibly happy about it. Although the school was not big, it looked quite nice. A crowd of students gathered at its entrance to greet the newly arrived. The princess expressed a desire to inspect the school as soon as possible. The mentor offered the children his assistant Wang Ming as a guide. The princess told the new guy that she was primarily interested in the hostel. She wants to see the life of ordinary people. The houses where the students lived looked very unpresentable. The guy stared in amazement at the huts in which they were to live. But Chu Xingchen laughed and said that appearance is not the main thing. But the main thing is the content. The truth is that everything turned out to be even worse inside. Bare walls and a row of mats with cheap pillows where students slept. The princess flew into an indescribable rage when she saw a cockroach running out of the room. Shu Wu asked Wang Ming to show him the training hall, since the guy was eager to train with the sword. The guide explained that the training hall was over 200 years old. He added that the equipment inside is not much newer, so it must be used with caution so as not to injure yourself. The beauty saw that the princess and Shu Wu wanted to quit school. But for the girl, the main thing was not convenience, but the library. She was soon answered there, and she gasped. The library turned out to be a dark closet with half-empty shelves, on which were several dirty and torn books. Now there were already 3 people who wanted to leave this strange school. Chu Xingchen judiciously stated that there is no need to be so demanding, because the main thing is that there is good land. True, the guys suffered the same disappointment as the rest of the guys. Wang Ming said that they really couldn't grow anything on this land, but they don't have the same experience as Chu Xingchen. The guy knelt down and cried bitterly. This land turned out to be even worse than the Black Swamp. At least there was demon dung there. Now, Chu Xingchen joined the group of people who wanted to leave the school. Lunch in the school canteen did not improve the children's mood at all. The princess became completely furious. She said that for such food, the cook should be marked to death right away. Her Majesty immediately rushed to carry out her threat. Chu Xingchen heard the princess's wild screams and thought that she was flaying the cook alive. But the cook was saved from the righteous wrath of the princess by cockroaches that densely occupied the kitchen. Her Majesty had to get away from these mustachioed monsters herself. Wang Ming muttered an apology and said that their school was quite poor. He added that aristocratic families do not support their school. Therefore, they can only hope for help from the imperial court. Wang Ming added that their financial situation would be improved by the valuable prizes that the top 5 schools receive. But unfortunately, their school is at the bottom of the ranking. The guys were in complete despair about the school where they ended up. Wang Ming hastened to assure the children that they had a very kind mentor and were trying to study well in order to meet his expectations. Chu Xingchen thought for a moment. The situation turned out to be quite bad. But the guy was not used to despair, much less giving up. At this time, a conversation took place in the school administration building. The uncle of the school mentor called him to his place for a serious conversation. He informed the astonished teacher that this year they could not count on help from the imperial court. The old man added that the crash of the flying ship was used as an excuse to refuse help. The uncle told the mentor that he was a 3-star martial king and the son of the Liu family, and he was wasting his time in a useless school, teaching poor children. The uncle said that the guy deserves a great future, and at this time he is doing nonsense, teaching children whose families cannot even pay for education. The mentor was very unpleasant to hear such things, but he was not going to leave school. When leaving, my uncle told his mentor to think it over again and make a worthy decision. The mentor was left alone and plunged into sad thoughts. He muttered to himself that he could not give up his business at least until the schools were tested. Chu Xingchen appeared then. The mentor asked how he liked the school. The guy said that the situation is very poor. Mentor Liu apologized for the poor conditions at school. But Chu Xingchen added that he found the school's atmosphere to be excellent and the students to be friendly and motivated. And this is wealth in itself. Chu Xingchen whispered in Master Liu's ear that he had a good idea to make money. At this very time, poor students were grumbling that there would be no help for the school this year. Some students came to study at school only to receive help from the emperor. Then, a guy came running and said that they were teaching farming nearby. And the mentor said that in the future, the school will be able to provide for itself. The guy added that they also pay money for good work. Everyone's eyes lit up with a sparkle of excitement. Chu Xingchen actually taught poor students how to cultivate the land. He showed them the shit of swamp demons and told them that it was a valuable fertilizer that could improve the quality of the soil. Shizuo Wu was surprised that Chu Xingchen had been carrying around the magical shit of the swamp demons for so long. The guy said that it was really magical. In his eyes, it is as valuable as gold. Chu Xingchen announced that he had a whole ring of swamp demon shit. Shizuo Wu was surprised at his friend's foresight and thriftiness. The self-taught farmer explained that shit should be used sparingly. He also revealed that they would grow spiritual herbs on the cultivated land. Then the guy called over to his old comrades, whom he knew from the days of farming in the Black Swamp. Chu Xingchen told his comrades that he knew that they were very dissatisfied with the bad rooms and everything, but he added that poor conditions are not a reason to relax. Chu Xingchen said that the situation in the Black Swamp was not much better, but the guys rolled up their sleeves, got to work, and got a decent result. The guy handed his friends the school development plan that they had drawn up together with their mentor. Chu Xingchen stated that he intends to promote agricultural practices and economic development among students. The guy decisively declared that if they managed to turn the Black Swamp into a flowering valley with a blue sky, then they could pull this school out of poverty. Chu Xingchen then shouted that they could rewrite the history of the school if they all got down to business together. Inspired other school students also supported the guy's endeavors. They already saw a well-fed life in the near future. The princess liked how Chu Xingchen managed to infect people with his ideas, and she wanted to be like him. Inspired and encouraged, the guys started dancing to celebrate making important decisions. But not all school children shared the general fun. Some people didn't like Chu Xingchen's idea of plowing the garden instead of studying. Some thought that the rich kids came to them just to play at being farmers. Then they will return to their luxurious mansions, and the students will again be left with nothing. Some even wanted to turn to the deputy for an explanation. Soon, Chu Qingchen assembled the school's student council, which included his closest assistants. The first and most important task identified by the head of the council was making money. Chu Qingchen stated that they would sell the grown spiritual herbs. The guy added that Mentor Lu went to the capital to accept more than 100 tasks. This will also help improve the financial health of the school. The guys listened to Chu Xingchen's plans with different feelings, but everyone wanted to get out of poverty as quickly as possible. Hao Ging suggested borrowing money from her family. They have a lot of extra money. Chu Xingchen discarded this plan. He said that if her family invested money in their business, she would automatically oppose the Mu family. The princess added that all their parents would prefer that this school close in order to transfer their children to a better place. Chu Xingchen stated that Wujin School has poor saline and alkaline soils. They need to solve this problem. Hu Songlai spied on the guy all this time and wrote down literally every word he uttered in his diary. But he was also surprised that Chu Xingchen was thinking about farming 24 hours a day. He remembered the instructions about checking Chu Xingchen. He is strong, women fall in love with him, and he has a system. The guy hasn't noticed Chu Xingchen's strength yet. Women actually showed great interest in Chu. All these characteristics should mean that Chu Xingchen is the chosen one. True, at a critical moment in the dungeon, Hu Songlai did not notice that Chu Xingchen was using the system. The spy decided to put aside his thoughts and continue to observe Chu Xingchen and wait for further instructions from the Lord. Hu Songlai tirelessly followed the object of observation. The spy didn't leave Chu Xingchen alone even in the toilet, and this made the guy very nervous because he knew all the time when Hu was approaching him. At such moments, the system appeared and always informed Chu Xingchen that he was being watched. And such statements were very unpleasant to hear when you were sitting on the toilet. Chu Xingchen decided to deal with Hu and free himself from his constant presence. At the table in front of the girls, Chu dropped the phrase that he had too much to do, and he simply couldn't cope without a secretary. The blonde immediately offered her services to the guy. She said that she and her two friends would sort out all his current affairs. Hu Songlai thought that being a secretary was the best opportunity to spy on Chu Xingchen. The guy thought that then he would know every single one of Chu's plans. This was very tempting, and Hu Songlai asked to become Chu Xingchen's secretary. Chu immediately agreed, which led the girls into real indignation. The girls took their anger out on Hu. They said that they would make sure that he did their job well and that he did not lie. Hu Songlai was very pleased with himself. Thanks to his cunning and prudence, he was able to get close to Chu Xingchen. Soon, the new secretary was brought stacks of papers to work on. Hu muttered dissatisfiedly that there was too much paperwork for one person. In response, the girls informed him that this was only for half a day of work. The girls also promised that if Hu Songlai wanted to quit their job, they would roast him like a pig, since he stole their place from them. Frightened, Songlai plunged headlong into his work, but they kept bringing him new papers, and their number only increased. The poor spy was being pulled from all sides, and everyone needed something from him. Hu Songlai thought that he didn't want so much paperwork after all. He just needed to look after Chu Xingchen. At this time, Chu thanked his assistants for playing along with him and helping him eliminate the annoying Hu. Chu Xingchen growled so that Songlai would not dare blame him if he died at this work. After all, no one forced him. He asked for it himself. Soon, Hao Gung ran up to the guy with the joyful news that they managed to grow a variety of rice that was resistant to poor soils. Chu Xingchen was also happy because if the school had its own rice, they would not need money to buy food for the school. The guy said that with the money he earned from rice, he should buy a photo stone to start advertising. The princess, smiling sweetly, went about her daily work. But suddenly, unexpectedly, she cut her hand. Blood sprayed in all directions. The beauty became worried and said why Her Majesty was so inattentive. The girl with blue hair hurried to get a jar of wound-healing pills from the magical swamp. The pills were made according to the secret recipe of the Jialan family and contained a large number of medicinal herbs. The beauty added that even if someone's head falls off, these pills can stop the bleeding. Soon, the cheerful face of the princess appeared. She showed off her quickly healing hand. The princess said cheerfully that these pills would protect everyone's life. And the beauty whispered that these pills were recommended by the princess herself. Chu Xingchen looked at the result of the work done on the photo stone. The girls were ashamed of their work in advertising. The rest were enjoying themselves to the fullest. But in the end, this advertising campaign ended, and some people breathed a sigh of relief. At this time, an interesting conversation took place in the imperial city, in the house of the Jia family. The head of the academy called Mo Dai to his place and asked how she was doing. The girl replied that she was focused on training. The old man told his granddaughter that she should not think only about training. She needs to talk to Yishan more often since he is her fiancé. The leader also noted that when the Wujin school goes bankrupt, the noble children will return to study at their academy, and Mo Dai will need to spend time with them as well. The granddaughter objected to the old man that this school would not go bankrupt anytime soon. Things are not going badly for them now. All the shops in the nearest cities sold black swamp pills. The pills advertised by the princess herself sold like hotcakes. Her Majesty definitely had many talents that no one had suspected before. True, as always, a successful business also had its ill-wishers. But trade was quite brisk, and most importantly, it brought good income to the school's treasury. Someone said that it was outrageous that the princess was engaged in filming instead of training, which corresponds to her high position. Others said that the pills did not help at all, and they only cause harm. But despite the idle talk, the Wujin school was counting profits. It turned out that the guys managed to earn 158,000. Everyone was very pleased with these results. Chu Xingchen reminded that all questions regarding finances should be directed to his personal secretary. The guy had new ideas and was going to introduce new products to the market. The system asked Chu Xingchen where he got all these recipes from. To which the guy replied that he studied a lot of things while he was on the mountain. Chu Xingchen decided to take advantage of the turmoil and earn some money for school using these recipes. At that moment, one of the students ran up and reported that the neighboring school had come and started bullying them. One student has already suffered quite a bit from uninvited guests. Hulu tried to support the wounded guy while the others ran to help. Meanwhile, a guy from a neighboring school wrinkled his nose contemptuously and said that the smell of the poor was everywhere here. Wujin students said that fighting between schools is prohibited, so there is no point in getting into fights. A guy from another school said that his brother bought pills, and after taking them, he started bleeding even more. He stated that the Wujin school was selling poison under the guise of a great medicine. The guys started shouting that it was all a lie and that their pills were not poison at all. A small scuffle ensued. An arrogant guy from another school said that he was not going to believe their unfounded claim, and that he needs proof of the pill's effectiveness. One guy shouted that students from another school needed a secret recipe. An arrogant student from another school grabbed him by the hair and said, "How dare he open his poor and stinking mouth?" He shouted to the frightened guy that if they didn't bring him the prescription right away, the guy would be beaten to death. The next moment, a confident hand hit the arrogant guy right on the nose. The guy leaned back. Blood poured from his nose, and he started shouting, "Who dared to hit him?" Chu Xingchen said that he himself asked to be beaten to death. So Chu hit him. Then, being merciful, Chu Xingchen offered the pill to the arrogant guy. The blood immediately stopped flowing and the guy praised the medicine. Chu Xingchen said that he was very happy that his opponent had recovered. The next moment, Chu again shot the arrogant guy in the nose. In response to his puzzled expression, Chu Xingchen said, "If the medicine is good, why did you dare to say that it is bad?" The arrogant guy began to roar and said that Chu Xingchen should not dare to hit him. After all, he does not even suspect his high position. Then the princess stepped forward and asked the arrogant guy if he suspected her situation. The arrogant guy apologized to the princess and said that their pill had been causing a lot of controversy lately because there had been adverse reactions after taking it. A guy from another school said it looked like something was being mixed into their medicine without their knowledge. He told the princess that the Zhu family's hospital had already accepted patients who used their pills. The arrogant guy then said that the second prince had sent him to investigate this suspicious matter. Moreover, there had been a ship accident earlier. The arrogant guy also added that the ministry was going to inspect their school soon and then close it. The students whispered in fear and indignation, digesting what they heard. Chu Xingchen decided that he would not allow such a development. But then a mentor appeared. Moreover, he had fresh news from the ministry. Master Lu said that he had agreed that if they took third place in the competition, their school would not be touched. The mentor added that the prince was ready to vouch for their school. The princess remembered her older brother with warmth. The arrogant guy only laughed at Wujin School's plans. He said that there was no way for them to take third place, because they didn't even qualify. The guy added that if they shared the secret recipe with him, the second prince would be lenient towards them. He also turned to the princess and said that this stinking poor school was not at all worthy of her. The arrogant guy also gave the princess a message from the second prince. She is harming the family with her behavior. It would be better for her to go to the Star Academy. Otherwise, she won't live long. The princess answered the guy that she was sick of two types of people, and the first type is the second prince. Her Majesty added that the second type were pig-headed scoundrels like this guy. Very soon, the guy realized that there was no point in angering the princess. He realized this while he was hanging suspended by the ropes that the princess had tied with her own hands. Her Majesty said that threatening her was the last thing. Chu Xingqian praised the princess that she had learned his rope-tying lessons well. Hao Ging was shocked by what the guy was teaching the princess. Behind Chu Xingqian's back, conversations began that he was so cool only because the princess supported her. The students also suggested that it was better to give the recipe to the Zhu family, because anyway they would not be able to take third place in the competition. Now the princess directed her anger at the careless students. She said they are trying their best to help them and save their school. And in return, they only get dissatisfied grumbling. The poor students said they were helped today, but when the rich kids leave, their school will be bullied even more. The annoyed princess couldn't even find the words to call the grumblers and crybabies. But then the mentor turned to Her Majesty and asked her not to be angry. He also said that he had a thing for her and her friends. Master Lu asked the guys if they would like to participate in the tournament. The princess said that of course they would participate, and they would win in order to wipe that dirty grin off the arrogant guy's face. The mentor said that this was very good, since the school students did not show interest in competitions. He also added that he will take charge of training new guys for competitions. And he offered them a training plan that he developed himself. The guys were surprised that training would take place even in the middle of the night. While the mentor was talking about the format of the competition, Chu Xingqian was sleeping soundly. The system tried to slow down the guy so that he would not miss important information, but it was all useless. Finally, the system called the guy a sloth and began taking notes itself. Master Lu added that he doesn't just expect the guys to take third place in the competition, he wants them to win. Only then will the Wujin school be respected. The mentor added that the team that takes first place will be allowed to visit the sword's grave this year. Shi Zuowu immediately became wary. The greatest masters visited the grave of the sword and left their treasures in the grave for future generations. Shi Zuowu shouted that if he managed to get into the sword's grave, then he would not live this life in vain. Master Lu also said that there is a prize of 5 million for first place in the competition. This news woke up Chu Xingqian. The guys promised the master that they would certainly take first place. Next, the mentor informed the children that they must definitely increase their level of cultivation in order to keep up with other contenders for victory in the competition. Master Lu explained that they were at a disadvantage because they had few good martial arts skills. Chu Xingqian asked the system why it didn't give him martial arts skills. The system objected that the guy has 2 skills. The first is a bluff, which has a cooldown of 3 years. The second skill is enchanted voice. Cooldown is only 1 day. Chu Xingqian objected that while waiting for the bluff skill to recharge, you could become old. The system advised the guy to train more to get to the great martial arts master. Then the reload time would be reduced. The mentor told the boys that he had studied agriculture and came to the conclusion that it would help the kids develop their bodies and improve their cultivation level. For training, the master suggested cultivating 50 acres of land. This puzzled even Chu Xingqian. Although he was very seasoned in agriculture, even for him it was a lot. The kids from the water group were asked to catch 1,000 fish using spiritual power, and the other kids were asked to build a dormitory using spiritual power. Pasha on the ground until he sweated, Chu Xingqian thought that the mentor wanted to kill them. Here, the system also inserted its 2 cents. She asked the guy if he didn't like farming. Chu Xingqian looked at the strong Shi Zuowu and envied the guy. He thought that while farming was his hobby, he enjoyed doing it. Now that it had become hard work, it was a burden. A mentor approached Chu Xingqian and reminded him to take pills to replenish his spiritual strength. The mentor also advised the children to keep their bodies constantly in a state of high stress. This is how endurance is strengthened. Master Lu also had some advice for those who tried to build a building using spiritual power. Everyone greeted the end of this difficult day with great relief. Chu Xingqian literally slept while walking. He no longer wanted to eat or anything else. The princess was also unhappy that she had to catch so many fish in one day. And then listen to a boring theory. The beauty noticed that the gaps between them and other schools are huge, so they have to push harder. She added that the school does not have enough teachers, and it is also not easy for a mentor. The girl with blue hair said that she was not sure that Master Lu could withstand such a load for long. Chu Xingqian no longer paid attention to his friend's words. He was too tired not only to object, but even to simply listen. The guys weren't the only ones awake at this late hour. Their mentor also worked hard that night. He was also depressed by the heavy burden that he placed on the shoulders of his charges, but they needed to train to catch up with other schools in strength. True, the lack of strength can be compensated with the help of tactical strategies. The mentor was very tired, but he wanted to solve this problem so that representatives of his school would win an award and thus save the school from closure. Master Lu continued to work on a new training strategy for the guys. Later, he had some idea, but it needed to be developed. The teacher remembered that Chu Xingqian was sleeping in class and thought that the guy was very secretive. But sometimes, Chu is capable of much. Gradually, a new plan matured in Mentor Lu's head, which could easily be implemented under existing conditions. The mentor gathered the students who were supposed to participate in competitions near the training hall. Master Lu said that this year they have enough money to launch an illusory formation for training. The students liked this news. The simulation made it possible to train as during a real battle, but there was no possibility of injury. The mentor divided the training participants into two teams. For killing an enemy, 1 point was added to the team, and for the death of an ally, 1 point was deducted. Then the guys drew lots to decide who would be on the same team with whom. Chu Xingqian found himself on the same team as Hu Songhai and Hu Lu, while all his comrades ended up on the other team. Chu Xingqian told Master Lu that they had no chance of winning, since all the strongest players were on the other team. Master Lu smiled and said that he believed in him and his victory. His friend Shizuo Wu also did not fail to tease Chu Xingqian. Then, all training participants were asked to enter the formation, one by one. The guys lined up in a circle around the entrance to the formation. The mentor began the countdown until they could enter. Chu Xingqian looked with mixed feelings at his comrades, who became his opponents in this training. Then the guys began to enter the formation and disappeared from sight. The mentor was thinking about Chu Xingqian at this time. He understood that compared to other schools, they were much weaker. Therefore, he deliberately assigned the guy to a weak team so that he would learn to fight with a superior enemy. Master Lu saw leadership qualities in Chu Xingqian, and he wanted them to manifest themselves even more in the guy. The mentor wanted to see if the guy could win, being in an initially worse position. It was so dark inside the formation it would be eye-opening. Chu Xingqian looked around, but saw nothing except blackness and vague shadows. The guy tried to move by touch and soon came across something. It turned out that Chu Xingqian had bumped into his teammate. The guys were very scared and were afraid to make a sound or even move. Chu Xingqian told the guys not to shine too much so as not to give away their location. Chu himself said that he would go on reconnaissance and check if there was an enemy team nearby. Using his magic eye, the guy examined the surrounding forest and realized that there was no threat yet. Then, Chu Xingqian gathered the guys around him and said that he had come up with a good plan. The guys whined that it would be better to hide and wait until the end of the training. Chu Xingqian stated that the challenge has battle flags that give extra points. Since they do not have the strength to fight the other team, they need to try to get at least a few points. Suddenly, a column of fire appeared in front of Chu Xingqian. The guy barely had time to jump back. Shizuo sat nearby and brandished his lightsaber. He greeted Chu Xingqian happily. The guy immediately grabbed his teammates and started running. But soon another column of fire blocked the path of the fugitives. Moreover, this time it is much more than before. The princess was waiting for the guys. As always during the fight, she was amazing. Previously, Chu's team of friends had a war council. They rightly decided that the guy was the central link of the other team and unanimously decided to kill Chu Xingqian. The princess expressed doubts whether they had the strength to kill the guy. Shizuo Wu whispered something in the princess's ear, and it seemed that Her Majesty's doubts had left her. She stepped forward and said, "Let's look for Chu Xingqian." And now, the guy was running away from his friends, saving his own life. A strange object appeared in the middle of the road, and Chu Xingchen automatically looked at what it was, hoping for a miracle that could save him. But it turned out to be no miracle. It was a sly fox who was waiting in ambush for the guy. The fox looked very menacing and determined and was about to attack the guy, but Chu Xingchen easily waved her aside and ran on. The fox growled after the guy that he had again sucked all her energy. The noble Shizuo Wu ran past, and he promised the fox that he would avenge her. Friends ran after Chu Xingchen and asked him to wait for them. The guy at that time thought that he would not succumb to these insidious bastards. They will still see who will defeat whom. Meanwhile, Chu Xingchen's team sat in the bushes and watched as their commander was being chased. The girl with blue hair thought that everything looked very suspicious. She made several smooth movements with her fingers near the ground. As a result, she created a protective zone that would protect her and her teammates. The protective zone moved with the beauty, which was very convenient. All of her boys who were chasing Chu Xingchen were protected. In difficult times, it became clear that the foresight of the girl with blue hair saved their lives. Thanks to the protective zone, the unexpected attack on their team ended in nothing. Previously, Chu Xingchen explained to his team that they would run to kill him first. He will lure his pursuers into an ambush. And there, the guys from his team will finish off the enemy. The plan indeed looked quite successful and promised victory even with much weaker forces. But something went wrong during the process. The entire power of the attackers was repulsed without even reaching the enemy. Chu Xingchen quickly understood the situation on the battlefield. He said that it was urgent to eliminate the beauty, since she not only protects others, but also heals. The guys took Chu Xingchen's advice and began to attack the girl with blue hair. Soon, they managed to achieve their goal. It seemed that now it would be easier to deal with the enemy. But Shizuo Wu and the princess were serious opponents even separately. And together, they were practically invincible. These two were swinging their powerful weapons in all directions, and there was no way to approach them. Hu Songlai was seriously injured. The representatives of Chu Xingchen's team were becoming fewer and fewer every minute. Songlai muttered that he could no longer withstand such powerful attacks. At the last moment, Chu Xingchen pulled the wounded guy out from under another blow. The guys managed to take cover behind a large boulder and catch their breath. Hu Songlai said that he could no longer run, and added that Chu Xingchen should leave him. The guy replied that Hu Songlai was probably joking since Chu Xingchen never abandoned his team members. True, the guy missed another powerful attack. For the most part, it fell precisely on the half-insensible Hu Songlai. He was almost torn out of Chu Xingchen's hands. In addition, a pumped-up shooter from the other team started aiming at the guys. Chu Xingchen began to run away with his heavy burden. A whole swarm of arrows flew after them. The princess shouted that it was time to catch up with Chu and finish with him. But the shooter from their team was against it. The shooter said the pursuit could lead them into another ambush. Since they took the flag, they have an advantage in points, and therefore there is no point in taking any more risks. But the guys did not listen to the shooter's words, but rushed to catch up with Chu Xingchen. By this time, the fox had recovered and swore that she would take revenge on the vile Chu Xingchen. Just in time, the guy was running in her direction with a heavy burden on his shoulders. Chu Xingchen smiled happily at the fox and shouted that she was just in time. The fox was confused and missed the moment when the guy grabbed her by the scruff of the neck. The next moment, Chu Xingchen used the fox as a shield to cover himself and his burden from the back. The princess shouted so that Xiaoxi would not be killed by accident. She asked that they aim specifically at Chu Xingchen. The fox hung behind the guy's back and called him all the offensive words that she could remember in such an uncomfortable position. Chu Xingchen growled that they needed to break through to the west. There is a river there, and they can take the flag there. At this time, the attackers killed the fox,